This is New York Knicks Now by Chat Sports, and I am your host, Marshall Green. Appreciate everybody for stopping by as we react to some rumors surrounding the New York Knicks and their final roster spot, or I guess 14th roster spot, and the final veteran minimum deal that they can hand out. Knicks insider James L. Edwards III of The Athletic does a great job. Go support his work. He put out a list a couple of days ago of some free agent targets, and Seth Curry was a name that he mentioned, and that is one that sticks out to me. We know the Knicks can go out and sign one more player to a veteran minimum deal, and after the whole charade yesterday of they offered Ben Simmons, and he said no, according to Mark Stein. Then Ian Begley says the Knicks didn't offer Ben Simmons. I think it's safe to say the Ben Simmons sweepstakes is over. So we're going to start to talk about some different players. Edwards wrote this about Curry to the Knicks, saying, quote, "It doesn't hurt to have a surplus of players who can hit threes, and few are more accurate than Curry. He led the NBA in three-point percentage last year at 45.6%, only 2.7 attempts per game, and has shot less than 40% from three only once over his last 7 seasons in the NBA. Look, Seth Curry, he's a Curry. He could shoot the piss out of the ball, and he did so last year for the Charlotte Hornets. He's 35 years old at this point. Crazy to think that. I still remember when he was in college. This is a guy, though, like Edwards talked about, throughout his career, he has hit three after three after three. And when you talk about what do the New York Knicks need, it could be another sharpshooter off the bench. Last year was an amazing season for him from beyond the arc. The best he has shot from downtown in each of the last 4 seasons. Played in 68 games for Charlotte. Does he want to play anywhere else besides Charlotte? I think that's a question that he's going to have to answer. And how much interest do the Knicks really have in him? Shot 47.8% from the field, so he shot better from 2 than he did from 3. That's good to see. He could still finish around the basket. He could shoot in the mid-range as well. This is a player that is extremely offensively gifted. And for a Knicks team that did not shoot the ball well at all from downtown in the playoffs, I don't hate the idea of adding a guy to the bench that can shoot the ball well from downtown. They did well in the regular season, shooting 36.9%. That was the 8th best percentage of all 30 teams in the NBA. But in the playoffs, they were 10th out of 16 teams. Simply just not going to cut it. I know they didn't play good enough defense against the Indiana Pacers, but they didn't shoot well enough from downtown. Now, do I want Seth Curry playing in the Eastern Conference Finals? I guess that's another discussion for another day. You look at the team. You talk about the players on the roster. You talk about, is there any minutes for a guy like Seth Curry on this roster? You have your starting point guard in Jalen Brunson. He's a lot. Curry is a lot like Deuce McBride, where he is built like a point guard, but he plays more like an off-ball player. And they kind of are a little bit deeper at that 2-guard spot. They have Jordan Clarkson there. Miles McBride is going to play there some this season. Tyler Kolek's your backup to the backup point guard, and maybe Pacome Dadier plays a little 2, plays a little wing. I view him as an off-ball player as well. You can never have too many shooters on an NBA team. Like, there could be a couple games this year that, not saying Seth Curry would win you games, but he can go out and catch fire from downtown and get the Garden crowd on their feet, have that place rocking, and I wouldn't mind having a Curry at Madison Square Garden. That would be pretty cool. I'll ask you the question. Do you think the Knicks should go out and sign Seth Curry? Type a Y for yes, type N for no. I want to hear from all of you in the comment section. That's going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So when you scroll on down, go to the pinned comment and let me know. When I talk about free agents and the guys that are out there and the players the Knicks could look to potentially sign to that 14th roster spot, I just don't really have Seth Curry in my finalists. Would I be upset if it happened? No, honestly, I'd be happy. I think it'd be fun. It'd be cool to have a Curry on the Knicks, and it's always fun having someone that could shoot 42% from downtown. The question for me is, how many minutes are going to be there for him? And some other things, like, I don't love the idea of signing someone to this veteran minimum deal that can't play with the Knicks' best player, that being Jalen Brunson. I don't really love the idea of having a Brunson and Seth Curry backcourt. Neither of those gentlemen really defend at a high level. And the Knicks, I know they're going more offense this year with Mike Brown as their new head coach. I still want people that are not just total liabilities on that end, which I do think that Seth Curry is at this point. Not because he doesn't try, just the physical limitations. And he's 35 years old. You're not saying, Seth, go guard that guy and go put him in a box and have him take it out of the game. Not happening. Teams are actually probably calling Seth Curry into the action if he were to ever play any crunch time minutes to take advantage of him in one-on-one situations. And I simply just think there are better options out there in the sense of playing time for the player as well as what they can bring and how they can help this basketball team. We'll go over a couple of names coming up in a second, but this hoodie, it's on sale, and it's a major deal. It was $80. Now it's just $47 at that link. chatsports.com/NYK hoodie / don't forget the slash. chatsports.com/NYK hoodie / all that information will be clickable down in the comments and in the description. The number one player on my power rankings of free agent targets for the New York Knicks at this point is our guy, Mr. Landry Shamet. Still just 28 years old. There was a report yesterday that he's been working out in New York City. He wants to return to the New York Knicks, and I'm a sucker for that. If you want to play for the Knicks, I want you here. James L. Edwards of The Athletic wrote this about Landry Shamet. He was a member of the Knicks last season, and the franchise could reunite with the 28-year-old depending on how the Malik Beasley situation shakes out. A veteran shooting guard, Shamet appeared in 50 games last season. He missed the first few months with a shoulder injury and averaged roughly 15 minutes a game under former head coach Tom Thibodeau. Shamet knocked down nearly 40% of his threes and competed defensively. It's hard to see where Shamet would fit into the rotation since New York added Jordan Clarkson during free agency, but you can never have enough shooting and insurance on the wing. And I echo just about everything Edwards said. I've said it on this show. I've said it on multiple shows in the past. He knows his role. He's liked in the locker room. He was able to contribute on a big stage in the playoffs. His defense is contagious. It's something you want to root for. He competes, and he shot the ball well once he got back from that shoulder injury. If I had to say anyone who I just really want the Knicks to sign at this point, it would be Landry Shamet. I wanted to bring up our guy, big money AB. Alec Burks, once a Knick, always a Knick, even if it's like in 3 different stints. 34 years old. Does it make all that much sense? Look, he could play the 1, he could play the 2, he could score, he can get hot, and he wasn't all that bad for Miami last year, averaging over 7 points per game and shooting almost 43% from the field. Edwards wrote this about Burks. Someone else who Knicks fans are familiar with, Alec Burks, like Clarkson, is a professional scorer. And like Curry, has knocked down better than 40% of his threes all but once during his last 5 seasons. Similarly to Curry and Shamet, it would be tough to see how Burks would start the season in the rotation, but he's a nice plug-and-play option in the event Clarkson struggles. I'm not signing Alec Burks to come and be a guy that eats up minutes for this team, but more so insurance to where if there is an injury to Jordan Clarkson or anybody on this team, maybe the Knicks could bring him in and they can look at him from that perspective. A name we haven't really talked about all that much, and this is because the player has been hurt, I'm a fan of him, is Monte Morris. Monte Morris. This is a guy at 30 years old that could still shoot the ball extremely well from downtown, has some point guard-like abilities, is that combo guard, and could give the Knicks an extra scoring punch off the bench. Edwards wrote this. Injuries sidelined Morris for most of the 2023-2024 season and last season. He saw time in a weird Phoenix Suns rotation. But he's a veteran point guard who can make open threes, set up an offense, and won't turn the ball over. He'd be good insurance to have at the very least, and potentially as a solid ball handler for the roster if needed. This is a guy that has shot better than 36% from downtown in each of the last 4 seasons. You can never have too much shooting, kind of the theme of today's show. We're talking about shooters. You want shooters in the building wearing orange and blue. This guy had averaged 12.6 points per game 4 years ago, 10.3 points 3 years ago. If the injuries weren't a thing, he'd be on a team right now making a little bit more than the veteran minimum, in my opinion. But injuries have slowed him down. He can still shoot, can still handle, and I don't think it's the worst idea to potentially pick up the phone and see if Monte Morris wants to come and be a New York Knick. Name a player you want the Knicks to sign? Is it Russell Westbrook? Do you want to bring in Ben Simmons? Give me a name in the comment section, and make sure you are following me on social media. Shout out to everybody that's been showing love to the channel. It's the dog days of the NBA offseason. I know it is, but we're getting closer and closer to that NBA preseason and training camp. So subscribe, give me a follow on social media.